Hey there, pre-meds. In this video, we're going to be walking through everything you need to consider before registering for the MCAT for the 2024 season. So, MCAT registration opens on October 24th and 25th this year for the January to June test dates of the upcoming testing cycle. If you are planning on taking the exam July, August, September, your registration will open sometime in mid-February. So what do you need to consider before registering? First thing is your timeline. You need to think about when you're going to take the MCAT and making sure that that's reasonable with your goals and plans. The first thing to consider is if you are planning on applying in the 2024 cycle. So applications open May and June of the 2024 cycle, and it is important to try to get your primary application in as soon as possible once those applications open. Many advisors recommend having at least one MCAT score that you're okay applying with by the time that you submit your application, although some programs are okay with students, especially those who are retaking, taking their exam as late as mid to late June. They'll get their scores back in mid to late July, and it will still allow for a smooth application cycle. An important thing to consider when figuring out your test date is the fact that the MCAT will score your exam and provide you with your scores 30 days after you take your MCAT. So if you take it April 1st, you're going to get your scores back May 1st. So when you're deciding, okay, I want to have my score before applying so I know what schools to apply to, the latest I recommend that is the mid-April, maybe late April test dates to allow you to make the best decision when doing your application. A common thing and something I recommend is to take one whole year to just focus on MCAT and then the next year to focus on your application, so there's no rush to this process. But if you are planning on applying or just want to get the MCAT out of the way earlier on in the 2024 season, both the January and the March test dates are excellent options for you. Again, you'll get your score back 30 days after taking your exam, so you want to consider, okay, if I'm taking the MCAT for the first time, you want to have a buffer time for a retake. Most students retake the MCAT at least once. So if I take my exam in January, I'll get the score back in February. I can retake in March or April and have plenty of time to apply. With that being said, there's a couple caveats there. Number one, there are no test dates in February. There are 4 to 5 in January, only 2 in March, and then several in April and May. So if you were thinking that you might want to take your exam in February, you're out of luck because the MCAT does not run any test dates in February, and the next available one after January is March 9th. The entire MCAT calendar is linked below, so you can check out what available dates they have for 2024 and what makes the most sense for you. The second thing to consider, and it's something I always talk to students about, is the January test dates are tempting, right? They come right after the end of the semester. They're at the beginning of the year. You have tons of time to retake, but it's right around the holidays. And a lot of students have, I can definitely study because I'll have a lot of time during the holidays, but especially if you're going to spend time with family or friends, and we have this kind of conditioning to think about just relaxing during the holidays, it can just be really tough for students to study and be ready for an exam a few weeks after the start of the new year. So just consider that when making your plans and make sure that you have a really solid study plan before the holidays so that if you do run out of time or have other obligations, it doesn't completely derail your plan. I recommend, again, if you're unsure, to plan for the March test dates, and then if you're ready earlier, you can always move your test date up. Now, something to consider financially with taking the MCAT is that the MCAT is a bit expensive. The MCAT fee is $335 to register, and there are fees for rescheduling or canceling your exam. Those fees go up every 30 days, so 60 days or more, it's pretty affordable to reschedule or cancel, but 30 days out from your test date, it gets more expensive. And then a very important date is that 10 days before your test date, you are not allowed to reschedule or cancel your exam. So if you're 8 days out and you're not feeling great about test day, your only options are to no-show, to void, or to go and give it your best shot. So I usually have students, once they've registered for their test date, put in the 30-day and the 10-day deadline into their calendars so they can use that as an opportunity to check and make sure they're on track. The next thing to consider before registration day is whether or not you qualify for accommodations or fee assistance through the AAMC. So the AAMC has several options for students for accommodations on test day. These are things like extra time, stop the clock breaks, a room by yourself. So if you've had accommodations for anything from testing anxiety to medications, to learning or reading disabilities, that can also apply to accommodations on the MCAT, and I highly encourage students who have had accommodations in their undergrad to apply for accommodations on the MCAT. It will make a difference. Schools do not see those accommodations. Again, the goal is just to make it a more equitable experience for everyone, even though it's a standardized exam. So if you think you may qualify, I've linked it below. It does take up to 2 months for your accommodations to be approved, so please do that as soon as possible so that you can register with those accommodations if necessary. And then there's fee assistance programs. So if this is going to be a big financial burden for you, this is an expensive process, and the MCAT is a part of that expensive process. The AAMC does offer a fee assistance program for those who qualify, and that drastically discounts your AAMC registration fees for the MCAT, but also your application fees and MCAT resources like practice exams and practice problems through the AAMC. So again, I've linked the websites for both accommodations and fee assistance programs below. So please take a look at that if you think you may qualify for either option and apply for that as soon as possible. All right, finally, once you've made your decision about when you want to register for your exam and what your general game plan is for timeline, now you need to make sure you have a solid study plan where you can hit your goals effectively by test day. So I have a fun study calculator where you can put in your current score, your goal score, and your goal test date, and it will let you know how many hours per week, roughly, you'll need to study to get to your goals. This is a great way to check, is my goal realistic? Is my timeline realistic? If after the study calculator you want to ask me more questions about your study plan, or you're interested in joining my winter cohort course, we are launching that course. It's starting December 3rd, but pre-program resources are already out. So please feel free to click that link below. Again, it's www.bremmethod.com, has all of that information. You can join us. I think we still have several spots available for the winter cohort. Or if you just want to chat with me about your MCAT goals, you can email me at amanda@bremmethod.com. Good luck, and as always, happy studying.